1.3 notes, we're going to talk about the slope of a line and just lines in general. But first, the slope. We have a slope formula. If it gives you the graph, you can just count your rise over run to find the slope, but sometimes it'll give you 2 points. So to find the slope between 2 points, we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the slope of the line, I like to think about it just like how you read going from left to right. If I was a person walking, going from left to right, I'd be walking uphill, so I'd have positive slope here. If I was a person walking from left to right, I'd be walking downhill, so there's negative slope. If I wasn't going uphill or downhill, there's no slope, or zero slope. Slope is 0. And then if I fall, if I was a person standing here and can't stand here, there'd be no slope, or we'd call this undefined slope. In example 1, we're going to be finding the slope of a line through 2 points. So it gives us P and Q. So we're going to use our slope formula. What's our slope formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to start by labeling my points. That way it's just easy for me to plug them in. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope is going to be 5 minus 1 over 8 minus 2. 5 minus 1 is 4, and 8 minus 2. Can I simplify 4 over 6? To what? 2 over 3. So our slope would be 2 over 3. So it's just asking us for the slope, so we just need to plug in the 2 points we have into our formula and find the slope. All right, we have a couple equations for a line. So this first one that we're going to look at is point slope form. So our point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m, our slope, times x minus x1, where x1 and y1 are point, and m is the slope. So in order to use this formula, we typically would like to be given a point and the slope, and then we can just plug those in. So we'd plug in our y1, our x1, and our slope. Your equation will always have an x and a y in it. We don't plug anything into the x and the y. So example 2, we're going to find an equation of a line through our point 1, negative 3 with slope negative 1/2. So we are going to stick with our point slope form since we're given a point and the slope. So point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So the point we're given is going to be our x1 and our y1, and slope is going to be our m. So we're just going to plug everything in. So I have y minus negative 3 is equal to our slope, which is negative 1/2, times x minus x1, which is 1. To simplify this a little bit more, what happens when you have minus a negative number? It turns into plus. This would be y plus 3 is equal to negative 1/2 times x minus 1. Depending on what the question asks, if it asks for point slope form, you can just leave it like this. Sometimes the question might ask you for slope intercept form, which we'll get to that in a couple slides, but that's when it's y equals mx plus b, so we'd have to rearrange it and make it y equals. But this one, it doesn't say specifically what type of equation, it just says find an equation, so this is fine. Point slope form is fine. So the other form that we have is slope-intercept form. We like slope-intercept form when it gives us the slope and it gives us the y-intercept. So M, again, is our slope, and B is our y-intercept, where we cross the y-axis. We could have vertical or horizontal lines. So an equation of a vertical line through whatever point is x is equal to whatever the x value is. So I like to think about it as if I have a vertical line, what axis is my vertical line touching? The x-axis, so it's going to be x equals for a vertical line. Same thing if I have a horizontal line. What axis is my horizontal line touching? The y-axis, so it's going to be y equals. All right, example 5. It just talks about horizontal and vertical lines. I don't really think that there's actually questions here. A says an equation for the vertical line through 3, 5 is x is equal to 3. I don't know if it wants us to graph them, but a vertical line through 3, 5, we'd go to where x is 3 and put a vertical line there. So that would be our graph here. B is talking about the same thing. So an equation where x is equal to 3, again, you'd go to 3, where x is 3, put a line there. For C and D, again, they're talking about the same thing. The graph where y is equal to -2, so we'd go to where y is -2 and put a horizontal line there. Right, we also have the general equation of a line. So we have point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and then the general equation. We really don't use the general equation. It just says that you're going to have an x and a y. And when you have a line, neither one's going to be squared. It's just going to be a normal x or y. It's just a linear equation. We don't really use it. Next, we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. So two lines are parallel if they have the same slope. The symbol for parallel lines are like these two bars, parallel lines. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. And then the symbol for perpendicular is kind of like an upside down T. So an example of opposite reciprocal slopes, if one line had the slope of positive 1/2, or let's say positive 2/3. The opposite reciprocal of that would be negative 3/2. So we flip the fraction and change the sign. If it's already negative, you'd make it positive. If it's positive, you make it negative. So let's say my slope was -4. What would be the opposite reciprocal of -4? 1/4. Example 7, we've defined an equation of a line through the point 5, 2 that is parallel to the line here. So first thing we want to do is find the slope of this line, because if it's parallel, what do we know about the slopes? What do we say on the last slide? If it's parallel, what do we know about the slopes? Same slope. So first thing we want to do, step 1, find the slope. How can I find the slope of this line? What can we do? Well, if a line was in slope-intercept form, we have y equals mx plus b. If it's in this form, can we see what the slope is? Yeah. This isn't in slope-intercept form, but we can rearrange it to make it y equals, and then we can identify what the slope is. So we want to get this to be y equals. What should I do first to make it y equals? I'm going to rearrange it. Let's subtract 5. So we have 4x plus 6y is equal to negative 5. What else can we do? Subtract 4x. So 6y is equal to negative 4x minus 5. Is it y equals yet? Not yet. What's the last step? Divide by 6. I want to divide everything here by 6. So now we have y equals, can I simplify negative 4 over 6? It'd be negative 2 over 3, perfect. Minus 5 over 6. Now that we're in slope-intercept form, can we identify what our slope is? What's our slope? Negative 2 over 3. So our slope is negative 2 over 3. Now we're trying to find an equation of a line through this point that is parallel to this line. So we know that it has the same slope of this line. So now we have to use the point and our slope. So which equation are we going to use? Point slope form. Since we have a point and the slope, let's just plug it into point slope form. So point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So our point is going to be our x1, y1. And we found our slope already, which is our m. So let's plug everything in. So Tomas, what's my equation going to be? Mateo, what's the equation going to be?
Y equals -3.
No, we're using point slope form.
Oh, y minus y1.
What is my y1?
2.
So y minus 2 is equal to?
The slope is negative 2.
Negative 2 over 3 times?
X minus 5.
X minus 5. Perfect. So this would be our answer. All right, for the next one. We're given 2 points. We want to write an equation of a line parallel and perpendicular to a line through the point negative 4, 5. So what do you think the first thing I should do is? Find the slope. So we're going to take these 2 points and find the slope. So step 1, find the slope. So what's our slope formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we plug it in. So we have 4 minus 7 over 2 minus negative 3. 4 minus 7 would be negative 3 over, what's 2 minus negative 3? 5. So our slope is negative 3 over 5. If we're looking for a line that's parallel, what's the slope of our parallel line going to be? Negative 3 over 5. Same slope. Parallel means same slope. So our slope is negative 3 over 5. So we're looking for the equation of a line through our new point given, negative 4, 5, with this slope. Do I have all the information I need to plug it in? Yep. We have a point and we have the slope, so let's use point slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So Tomas, let's try this again. Times? Awesome. So it'd be y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 over 5 times x plus 4. So since it was minus negative 4, it turned to plus. So that would be our equation of a parallel line. Let's do the same thing for perpendicular. For a perpendicular line, what do we know about the slope? Does it have the same slope? It's the opposite reciprocal. So what's the opposite reciprocal of negative 3 over 5? positive 5 over 3. Now we're using this same point, or new point here. So now that I have a point and my slope, can I plug it into the equation? Yes, we're just going to plug it into point slope form. So I have y, what? What would come next? Y minus 5 is equal to 5 over 3 times x plus 4. Remember, we're using this as our x1 and y1 for our point slope form. So this would be our perpendicular equation. So you do the same thing, you just have to find the opposite reciprocal of the slope first before you plug it in.